Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Mr. Commissioner, dear colleagues. The trouble with authoritarian politics is that without pushback, it becomes ever more aggressive and dangerous. And the European Union has learned this the hard way with Putin. But it seems to me that we haven't really learned this lesson when it comes to our own values and rule of law in Europe. We now have a member state government that has stifled independent media, captured independent institutions, which is spreading hate against minorities, and when billions of EU money disappeared in the hands of oligarchs close to the ruling party. We also have a member state whose government works to dismantle independent judiciary by targeting judges, by firing them. Now, all of this takes place in the EU, a democratic community with EU financial support, and despite the many mechanisms and tools that we have in place to protect our values. Now, today we are here to discuss Article 7, which, if you look at it, is a fairly straightforward procedure with hearings, with recommendations, and ultimately sanctions. So on paper, it is a pretty powerful tool. Now, in practice, the Council has made it toothless and quite opaque. Hearings are random and non-transparent. And even today, even after everything that has happened in Hungary, the Council has failed to even agree that this constitutes a serious breach of EU values, despite no unanimity needed for that statement. Now, thankfully, and after much hesitation, the Commission has finally activated the conditionality regulation. But even here, there is a risk that the scope will be too narrow and that it will fail to address the systemic deficiencies and risks that stem from the absence of checks and balances and rule of law, which is precisely what this regulation is for. Now, colleagues, I remember last time around, many of you were saying that when we had this debate, that the situation is now unprecedented with a full-scale war on our borders. And now here we are, 4 weeks later, after the massacres of Bucha and Mariupol and many others. And what strikes me is that I hear many voices, even in this House, saying that, well, in times of war, we should relax our principles and our rules when it comes to defending democracy in Europe. But I strongly believe that this is precisely the opposite of what is needed. Now, after Putin's invasion, many have said that we're now locked in a broader, protracted conflict between autocracy and democracy, between Vladimir Putin's model and our European model, between tyranny and between freedom, between brute force and between rule of law. And I agree that this is the conflict that we're facing, which is precisely why now, more than ever, it's important to protect our democratic model in Europe, why we cannot relent, why we cannot now relax our rules, because otherwise, how we're going to prevail in this conflict that is upon us. Thank you very much.